Imagine you've walked into a restaurant you haven't stepped foot in for years. The familiar smells and the sounds of conversation greet you as you're greeted by the hostess. She looks at you with recognition and just casually mentions how she remembers you from a reservation you made just a few months ago for that very evening. It's one of those moments that leaves you scratching your head, wondering how you could have made a reservation you have no memory of. If you have ever found yourself puzzled by one of these strange experiences, you may have encountered a spirit double.
Most commonly known as a doppelganger, spirit doubles are mystical beings that have woven themselves into folklore, myths, and cultural narratives worldwide. These twin entities can take on various forms, from ominous omens of death or adversity, spiritual precursors or reflections, and representations of the soul or mind, highlighting duality, the concealed self, or repressed facets of a person. Each form carries its own cultural significance and emotional nuances, with some viewed as neutral or positive, while others are intertwined with fear and misfortune. The concept of these supernatural twins echoes our enduring intrigue with identity, fate, and the mystical, serving as cultural mirrors that reveal our deepest anxieties and beliefs about existence itself. These enigmatic replicas of living individuals are not simply lookalikes or twins. They are exact paranormal duplicates, almost indistinguishable in detail, often described as slightly paler than their originals. What is most fascinating is that reports of doubles have continued into the contemporary era, consistently described across various cultures and time periods. Whether examined through the lens of ancient wisdom or modern paranormal investigation, the phenomenon of doubles remains a profound challenge to our understanding of consciousness and the nature of reality itself. The earliest mentions of the spirit double can be traced back to ancient Egyptian texts inscribed in hieroglyphics approximately 3,500 years before Christ. These texts indicate that the Egyptians believed our bodies consisted of at least 3 interconnected components, though there are more: the Kat, Ku, and the Ka. Kat signifies the physical body and is linked to decay and corruption. It is viewed as the mortal vessel that contains the soul throughout life. Ku is referred to as a spirit soul, often illustrated as a luminous, radiant entity. Ka embodies a person's vital force or life energy. It represents the core of a person's individuality, distinct from the physical form. Understanding the Ku can be challenging, as it differs significantly from our modern interpretation of the term soul. According to the Egyptians, the Ku embodies our will, thoughts, ambitions, and desires, elements that lack objective reality but exist within us. In a broader sense, the Ku aligns with what we now refer to as consciousness, although interestingly, the Egyptians depicted it as residing in the heart rather than the brain. Upon death, the Ku was believed to leave the body in the form of a bird. In contrast, the Ka, or spirit, was seen as the twin or double of the body itself. Egyptians also thought the ka could detach from the body during sleep, especially while dreaming or during trance-like states or comas. They described the ka as projecting slightly from the body to create a spiritual envelope, known today as the aura, a term derived from Greek meaning breeze or breath, that can be observed under suitable lighting. Therefore, in their view, and that of other ancient cultures, everything in nature has a spirit form. Um, it's important to note that early humans did not perceive a spirit as a purely non material entity as we do today. Among the most enduring and psychologically complex entities in Germanic folklore stands the Doppelganger, whose very name, double walker, hints at the uncanny nature of its existence. Unlike many supernatural beings that emerged from medieval European folklore, the Doppelganger represents something more intimate and ultimately more terrifying: the possibility of encountering oneself. This isn't merely a reflection or a trick of light, but rather a fully formed double that walks, speaks, and exists independently of its original. The concept proved so compelling that when German author Jean Paul first coined the term in his 1796 novel Siebenkas, it quickly transcended its literary origins to become deeply embedded in both folklore and psychological theory. It was in medieval German superstition where the entity took on its most ominous aspect. To encounter one's double was to receive the most dreaded of omens, a harbinger of imminent death or catastrophic misfortune. Even more unsettling was the possibility of others encountering your doppelganger while you remained unaware, suggesting a fracturing of identity beyond your control. What sets the doppelganger apart from similar supernatural entities is its profound psychological implications. Unlike ghosts or demons that represent external threats, the doppelganger emerges from within, embodying our fears about identity, authenticity, and the darker aspects of our own nature. This psychological dimension would later fascinate both Freud and Jung, who saw in the doppelganger a powerful symbol of the shadow self.
In Yoruba spiritual tradition, every person exists in two forms, not just as a physical being, but as a paired entity of Ori Inu. Think of it less as a ghost like double and more as two interconnected aspects of the same being, each inhabiting different planes of existence. Ori Inu is your spiritual doppelganger, your spiritual twin that exists in the divine realm. Unlike the often feared doppelgangers of German folklore, this double is your spiritual guide and guardian. Before you were born, this spiritual double made arrangements with the divine about your life path, essentially writing the script for what will be your earthly journey. What's particularly fascinating is that this spiritual double isn't a passive observer. It's actively involved in your destiny. It's like having a cosmic twin who's constantly working behind the scenes to help you fulfill your life's purpose. This relationship creates a kind of supernatural feedback loop. When your physical self aligns with the intentions of your spiritual double, the Ori Inu, remarkable things can happen. These concepts offer some intriguing ideas. Might certain cases of bilocation be explained through this dual nature concept? Could the feeling of being watched or followed be related to someone's own spiritual double? The Yoruba understanding of spiritual doubles offers a unique perspective on doppelgangers, viewing them as part of our spiritual essence rather than a source of fear. Unlike typical ghost stories, this tradition portrays the spirit double as a guide to one's highest self and destiny. Eidolon. It represents one of the most sophisticated supernatural concepts in Greek mythology. Unlike simple ghosts or spirits, these entities were perfect duplicates, phantom doubles that could manifest as exact copies of both the living and also the dead. The word itself means idol, double, or apparition, and it derives from the Greek root id, meaning that which is seen or shape. But the implications of these beings went far deeper than mere visual representation. Consider the famous case of Helen of Troy. While most know the tale of the face that launched 1,000 ships, fewer are aware of the fascinating twist some ancient sources provide that the Helen in Troy may have been nothing more than an eidolon, a divine phantom, while the real Helen remained safely hidden in Egypt. Euripides explores this idea in his play, Helen, suggesting that the entire Trojan War, one of the most devastating conflicts in mythological history, may have been fought over nothing more than a supernatural duplicate. The concept appears again in Homer's Odyssey, where we find one of the most chilling depictions of Eidolon in classical literature. Theoclymenus witnesses the doorway of Penelope's court filled with these phantom doubles, a horrifying premonition of the bloodshed to come. This scene perfectly illustrates how Eidolon served as bridges between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. But the influence of these entities extends far beyond their original mythological context, a perspective that would later influence Christian theology and modern discussions about simulation theory. The concept of eerie, living souls that create perfect duplicates of their human hosts, emerges from deep within Japanese cultural history, with documented cases stretching from classical literature from the Edo period into modern times. These supernatural spirit doubles, classified among Japan's diverse yokai, or supernatural beings, represent a unique phenomena where a living person's spirit creates an exact duplicate of themselves, capable of independent action, while their original body remains somewhere else. Tale of Genji provides one of the earliest and most famous accounts of this phenomenon, describing how Lady Rokusho's spirit created her double to torment her rival, Genji's pregnant wife. This established a pattern of Irakiyo manifestations driven by intense emotions, particularly jealousy, love, and vengeance. The Konjaku Monogatari further developed this theme with its tale of a vengeful wife's double appearing to curse her negligent husband, while the Sorori Monogatari presented the disturbing account of a woman's spiritual double manifested only as her own severed head. During the Edo period, the phenomenon became medicalized through the concept of rikambyo, or attached soul syndrome, where the creation of a perfect double was considered a symptom of spiritual illness. This condition, known as kage no yamai, or shadow illness, represented cases where witnesses might encounter both the physical person and their spiritual duplicate simultaneously, leading to deeply unsettling experiences.
The double nature of the Akiryo sets them apart from other supernatural entities. Unlike ordinary ghosts or demons, these doubles appear as perfect replicas of living individuals, down to their clothing, down to their mannerisms. They can manifest for various purposes, sometimes as harbingers of death, appearing to loved ones shortly before the original person's passing, or as vehicles for intense emotions, allowing a person's passionate feelings to literally take physical form and pursue their object of fixation. This living ghost tradition continues to captivate because it suggests that under certain circumstances, through either intense emotion, spiritual practice, or illness, a person can literally split themselves into two identical beings, one physical, one spiritual, yet both equally real to those who encounter them. The Akiryo represents a uniquely Japanese interpretation of the universal Doppelganger myth, where the double emerges not as a malevolent imposter, but as a genuine spiritual projection of the original person's consciousness or intense emotions. The Vardøger represents one of folklore's most fascinating temporal anomalies, a prophetic double that doesn't just predict events, but creates perfect echoes across time. Rooted in Norwegian tradition, the term derives from Old Norse vardigi, combining vord, guard watchman, and hugair, mind soul, describing a supernatural herald that performs an exact dress rehearsal of future events. What makes the Vardøger particularly uncanny is its precise replication of future moments. When the phantom double appears, it creates a specific sequence of sounds and actions. Footsteps with a particular rhythm, doors opening in a certain way, voices carrying distinct intonations. Then, sometimes minutes or hours later, the actual person arrives and performs these exact same actions in perfect mimicry of their spiritual predecessor, down to the smallest detail. It's as if the Vardøger doesn't just predict the future, but actively scripts it. This perfect temporal mirroring suggests the Vardøger possesses not just the ability to foresee future events, but to capture and replay them in precise detail. Unlike other supernatural doubles that appear simultaneously with their originals or serve as omens of doom, the Vardøger acts as a kind of
temporal echo that reverberates backward through time. This phenomenon finds parallels in Finnish folklore through the etiäinen, suggesting a broader Nordic understanding of these time-bending doubles. What sets the Vardøger apart is its role not just as a herald, but as a supernatural choreographer, laying down a pattern that the physical world must later follow. This remarkable aspect of the Vardøger challenges our linear understanding of time and causality. The idea of seeing your own spirit double has fascinated people for centuries. You'll find stories in ancient myths, Viking sagas, and even modern pop culture, all revolving around that eerie moment when someone encounters an apparition or double of themselves. To understand why, we can dive into the work of researchers like Lucas Heydrich, Olaf Blanke, by combining head-mounted displays, HMDs, 3D avatars, or live video feeds. They discovered ways to make people identify with a completely different body in a virtual space. When they apply brushing or tapping to your real body while you see the exact same touches on an avatar, a setup that puts sight and touch perfectly in sync, you actually start to feel like that avatar is you. Now imagine taking that experiment a step further. You're shown two different bodies in VR, side by side, both receiving the same synchronized touches that you physically feel. According to Heydrich, participants occasionally report a moment where they say something like, "I feel as if both bodies might be mine," or "I have more than one body." Though the effect isn't always strong, and not everyone experiences it at the same level, it's still compelling. It hints that our feeling of being a single embodied self can be surprisingly flexible. So what does this have to do with paranormal doubles or spirit double? Many cultures have long described the shock and terror of seeing what appears to be a shadowy duplicate of oneself. One could be tempted to think such an event must be supernatural, an omen, or evidence of a spirit realm. Rather than glimpsing an actual spiritual twin wandering around, a person might be going through an internal disruption or mismatch of their sensory signals, something that could be triggered by stress, fatigue, partial imagery and low lighting, or even a minor neural glitch in how the brain integrates sight, touch, and proprioception, the sense of where your body is in space. It sounds wild, but the brain is constantly doing sophisticated guesswork to keep your self-experience coherent. If, for some reason, your brain gets unusual visual data, like catching your reflection at an odd angle, or if it anticipates being touched when it's not, it can start combining signals in surprising ways. Under normal conditions, everything syncs up, so you perceive one seamless, "I am here in this one body." But if something wobbles that carefully balanced system, be it a neurological misfire, an immersive VR scenario, or even intense emotional distress, strange illusions can happen. Sometimes it just feels like someone is standing behind you, the so-called feeling of a presence. Other times, it might be that you see a body-like shape in your peripheral vision, and for a split second interpret it as me, but not me. Suddenly you've got a spirit double on your hands, or so it seems. Interestingly, a lot of people who write about these experiences from a spiritual or paranormal angle often highlight the emotional shock, the fear, or in some cases the sense that this double is an omen of doom. From a psychological standpoint, any unexpected illusions that shatter our usual sense of identity are bound to be jarring. Researchers have noted that illusions involving the self, particularly illusions that make you feel like you're duplicated or displaced, can produce a rush of anxiety or existential dread. For individuals with a history of trauma, these experiences can be even more distressing, as the confusion may dovetail with lingering fears and insecurities and such. On the other hand, some people find these episodes deeply meaningful or spiritually transformative, prompting them to rethink their life choices or sense of self, almost as if the double they glimpsed was talking to them on a metaphorical level. Another crucial piece here is that scientists have known for some time that illusions, especially illusions about your own body, aren't just silly magic tricks. They can arise from legitimate neurological or psychological processes that we all share. In a typical experimental study, these illusions last only a few seconds or minutes and are induced by artificially matching or mismatching senses: visual, tactile, proprioceptive feedback. But there's a continuum here. Under more extreme or sustained conditions, illusions might pave the way for longer, more elaborate episodes. In rare clinical cases, people really do see a copy of themselves in an ongoing, persistent way. This condition, called heutoscopy, can appear in epilepsy or other neurological disruptions, blending seamlessly with what we hear in centuries of paranormal lore about doubles and wraith like twins. If there's a debunking element to all this, it's to suggest that not every chilling encounter with a look-alike spirit is best explained as an actual paranormal event. The simplest explanation might be that our brains are more malleable, more prone to illusions, and more sensitive to expectations than we usually realize. Move around some wires, either in the real world with VR gear or figuratively in the brain pathways that coordinate self-perception. You can see extra copies of yourself, find yourself eerily split between multiple bodies. Research indicates that supernatural beliefs, including those surrounding spirit double, can provide psychological benefits. Bowden suggests that such beliefs may enhance positive affect and reduce depression, acting as adaptive mechanisms in coping with life's challenges. This aligns with findings by Pollack, who argue that perceived supernatural support can influence behavior and risk-taking, suggesting that individuals may feel emboldened when they believe they have supernatural backing, even in the face of potential danger. Such beliefs can serve as a buffer against existential anxieties, providing a sense of agency and control in uncertain situations. Kleinlogel highlights that interactions with virtual representations of oneself can lead to significant changes in behavior and self-perception, suggesting that seeing a spirit double, whether real or virtual, can trigger profound self-reflection and emotional responses. Moreover, the emotional reactions to spirit double can vary based on individual differences, such as gender, as explored by Kleinlogel. This variability underscores the complex interplay between personal identity, societal expectations, and the psychological effects of encountering one's duplicate. Can range from fear and confusion to empowerment and self-acceptance, depending on the context and the individual's psychological state. In addition, the coexistence of natural and supernatural explanations for experiences like seeing a spirit double reflects broader cognitive processes. Lagar and Stuhlman argue that individuals often integrate both types of explanations, to make sense of their experiences, suggesting that the psychological frameworks we use to interpret such phenomena are not strictly dichotomous. The resonance of spirit doubles seems deeply connected to the idea of a psychological mirror. The enduring power of these narratives lies in their uncanny ability to externalize the self, forcing a confrontation with our own being from an unsettlingly objective perspective. Seeing a double can feel like having your inner world reflected back at you, stripped of your own subjective filters. This externalized view can be profoundly unsettling, triggering a sense of vulnerability and the terrifying criticality of having your essence, both perceived and perhaps hidden, laid bare. It's as if the double embodies the silent judgments and hidden aspects of oneself, making the encounter a potent, albeit often frightening, form of self reflection. This psychological dimension, this spectral mirror reflecting our own identities back at us, is perhaps a key reason why the concept of spirit doubles continues to hold such a powerful and enduring grip on the human imagination.